Okay, Destiny 2. Vaulting, you've heard about it, and one of the big waves of vaulting is going on right now. It's a situation where some of the community are a bit pissed, a lot of them are actually happy enough for what this means for the overall health of the game, and some of the bonuses that they're actually getting, but perhaps there could be a few long-term issues that could come along with this. So, Matt, let's dive into the topic of vaulting in Destiny 2. A game where the last time we properly hopped in was Forsaken and the season that followed it. So now some of the things that we remember are subject to the vaulting.
Yep, subject to the vaulting, or in other words, completely gone with no hope of seeing it again until Bungie arbitrarily decide to spend the time to update and bring it back.
So the lore of Forsaken is gone to history then. It's just not a thing you'll be able to play. It's something you'll have to see in a YouTube video or a website.
Yep, it is almost like, they're taking the concept of a living world too literally, where, history is history. You cannot experience that anymore. All of the stuff Forsaken, which I think is specifically the part that I'm focused on, is like the story of Cade 6. That's just all gone. I think it was Paul Tassi pointed out in a Forbes article talking about vaulting that now all the history we know of Cade 6, who's this character in Destiny, has been for a long time, has a whole bunch of arcs. Now players who join after today, when Witch Queen launches, they'll only know Cade 6 as the character who says 2 lines in Old Strikes, but they know nothing more about them, can't get any of the experience of any of that character's arcs, can just read about it online.
So that's it for Nathan Fillion.
Yep, exactly.
Wow.
Yep.
Then all of the Year 4 seasonal narrative content is gone as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
That's weird. Now, some of the larger things like Proving Grounds, Battlegrounds, and Warden of Nothing will be available, but the Tangled Shore is gone. That's like
location.
That location from Forsaken is just gone.
Yeah, that location, everything you could get in there is all just dust. And they'll explain this in lore, in gameplay, for why it's not accessible. Same way they did with the darkness swallowing the planets from the base game.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, it's just all of that content that you can look at a couple ways. All of that content that other Destiny players experienced and loved, gone. All the content that you, as a Destiny player who probably, bought Forsaken, even if you're a lapsed or a current player, you likely at some point have bought some of it. All that's just gone.
I really liked it was after that in Forsaken, you got to like the city.
The Dreaming City is still there.
City, so it's still there, but just the idea that one day the Dreaming City's going to get swallowed up and will be gone.
Yep.
It feels a bit weird.
Yeah, same with everything.
So as an example, there's the some of the exotic weapon missions. The missions are gone. Now you can still get the exotics through other means, but just feels odd.
Yeah,
and also some player worry.
Yeah, especially given the context of the Presage mission specifically. It's actually really annoying because I'm always a prospective Destiny 2 player. The systems of it kind of bounce me off, but I've always wanted to play the content after really loving doing the Leviathan raid at its launch with people I knew. That was fantastic.
Yep, I was there too. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I've always wanted that experience again, but with the Destiny content vault, the longer I don't play the game, the more content I literally cannot play. And the Presage mission is one of the best examples of this, because I was going through just trying to get some opinion from a couple different places, and the prevailing thing I saw was the Presage mission was one of the best things I've ever put in Destiny. It's this I think it was a Eurogame article talking about it, like a guide talking about it being like, this may take you up to 2 hours, depending on, if you're coming in at the recommended power level or a bit higher. It could take you 90 minutes to 2 hours. It's full of puzzles. It's full of platforming. It's full of bosses. It's actually just this great bit of content for either you or a couple other players. And it's one of the best things that's done in Destiny. There was someone on Reddit talking about how they literally, they spent hours speedrunning it because they enjoyed it so much. They tried to get their time down time and time again because it was just that fun as a mission. And it's just gone. Same with all the other exotic missions introduced in the entire 4 seasons of content updates. So like $60 of content updates just gone to the wind.
It's wild, and it does make you wonder why they weren't able to find another way to include these in the game still. In some way that would make them accessible, but in a way where it wouldn't have to be tied into the new systems, right? Because that's ultimately one of the reasons why they vault. So let's talk about the impact that this has on players, because for all of the way that it's very easy to, at a glance, see all this for Destiny 2 and then just rake Bungie over the coals, it's a sort of thing where ultimately they're not doing this for a bad reason.
No.
Right? Like, they actually do have very valid and sensible reasons for doing this. And I think anybody who at some points in the past logged into Destiny 2 and was instantly extremely lost and confused, okay, maybe now you'll be lost and confused in a different way, but in terms of just purely being overwhelmed, it was a fairly large problem. And then they had this thing of like, okay, you keep on adding systems to the game, you never take any away, suddenly it's impossible to push the whole game forward. So that's kind of the problem that they're trying to get around. So sunsetting this old stuff makes room for new content, engine gameplay design improvements, and it also keeps the game smaller and also a bit more readable. And you could say that those are all pretty noble things.
Yeah, for sure.
So to go into these quotes from Luke from Bungie, for example, the Destiny Content Vault has provided a great deal of technical breathing room that the team has devoted to important improvements to the Destiny experience. Upgrades alike, drastically reducing our patch response times, improving loading times, offering quicker access to UI, like your inventory or the map. Things like this are actually linked to them doing the Content Vault.
Yep.
Now, I've got to say, that seems like the sort of thing that should be their problem and not the players. I guess it ends up being the players' problem because it is their problem. Yeah. But in what weird way is the game structured such that the Vault increases those loading times? Like, I just sort of think about that. Like, how is the loading structured? What's this like in an engine level? You know, it raises a few eyebrows.
Yeah.
There's other games that seem to be able to do things like that in a more modular way.
Yeah, so there's not a whole bunch of really deep information on this that's available, that as far as I can tell. But Paul Tassi talks about, he being the Destiny guy for Forbes, talks an awful lot about this stuff. And he specifically said that it is basically a load of under the hood technical stuff that they really just have to deal with. Where I'm trying to think, and it could just be how they structure things in data, that they improve that over time, but they have to go back and adapt everything to this new thing to load faster. Stuff like that. It could be like basically spaghetti code is probably the most reasonable way to sort of explain it. Is just there's so much stuff that they're improving time and time again, that stuff that you'll get from a Horizon Zero Dawn to Forbidden West, and you'll have massive improvements under the hood. A lot of things will be the same. Like, obviously, shooting the bow will be the same, but the people in charge of programming that will have gone over every nook and cranny of how that's implemented and improved it, because now they've had the time to do it. And that's the thing of iteration. But iteration while you're locked to the old problem means there's just loads of really, really specific technical details that they can't really talk about without sort of showing us source code.
Yeah.
That results in all these problems.
The thing that I then remember is just some of the talk that their engine is bizarre.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much is tied to that.
Yeah.
But they're saying, though, that adding in the Witch Queen expansion and the Throne World destination, they have to vault content in order to do that. Same goes for the likes of the weapon crafting, the legendary campaign option, and the glaive weapon archetype, plus all the other content for these 4 seasons. They are seemingly saying that the vault is needed to do that. Yeah, I suppose you can't just keep on adding content to a game and expect, especially for a game that's modern and looks great, expect for the file sizes to say reasonable for all time.
Yeah.
But I even know there's some games that are able to do this stuff fairly modularly. I mean, as an example, I was playing some WoW stuff last night. I only had a few hundred megabytes in my machine.
Oh, yeah.
Just, I was using their streaming tech where, it's just streaming the files or, the assets that it needs, depending on where your character is in the game. And it's that's a really cool system. And evidently not the sort of thing they're at all able to do in a game like this.
Yeah.
But I wonder, even with, I think, Call of Duty, right? It had its file size thing, but then they did the split.
Yeah.
Now, overall, this is the price they're paying, but what they're buying with that price is evidently good, because just about everyone is saying that, at least for the year previous to this, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best Destiny's been.
Yeah, that's the one thing I find kind of surprising is Destiny 2 is sort of cornered itself off in terms of its niche in the market, so it breaks into the mainstream discussion. So unless you're looking at Destiny 2, you won't think about it an awful lot. And I was surprised to see people go, "Oh no, this is literally the best year Destiny's ever had." You're like, how have I not heard about it then? No. They're all just happy in their corner, enjoying it.
Yeah, well, I remember Skill Up's exasperation of like this game, basically that the game content is so good, but that Bungie's sort of PR stumbles, their all of their foibles with the way they monetize the game, that basically steals the narrative away from how good the actual game is. And that's something that's been frustrating as a Destiny fan. So it continually seems like a game that is worth picking up.
Yeah,
I still feel really burnt from my experience picking up Shadowkeep. I will be honest.
Yeah.
But, maybe it is the time to go. Now, of course, this means that the active player base is actually pretty damn happy.
Yep.
They're going to defend this practice because they are the people who actually feel the upside to this practice, whereas the downside is an easily memeable, spreadable headline.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I thought was interesting was there was someone who was like a Laps player posted on Reddit about it a while ago, and like how is this reasonable? Here's all the damage this is doing. This is a horrible experience for me specifically, or my kind of player who wants to dabble but constantly feels like we're missing out. And they were just it was like a very weak plane flying into just anti-air for days. They were just completely shot down and nuked by everyone in the comment section, just going, no, you don't understand. Some of it was because he was like slightly factually wrong in how he said something, but it was mostly just all these players immediately putting up the wall for Bungie, but like, no, we defend this practice because it works for us. You're not over here. You don't understand how this is actually good. And I think that's the interesting thing that's happened here is, well, we can look at it and say, well, this is a bad industry practice. You're deleting content people paid for. You're ruining you're ruining the longevity of your game, arguably, for reasons we'll get into. But everyone who's playing, they're like, yeah, no, they're serving us by making the game better for us. This is how they're doing it. And, it's not to say they uncritically accept that Bungie couldn't get around this problem. It's just they're like, well, the developers have said this is a problem, so we're gonna trust them. And it's worked so far.
Yeah. So it's great for the active players.
Yep.
For lapsed or returning players, or maybe even new people, it's a bit weird because obviously there's the widespread perception about Destiny that doesn't feel good that could make somebody feel weird about buying it. And I suppose that's the weird thing. If this was happening in a subscription game, then I feel like people would understand it more in a way. It's like, hey, the subscription gets you access to the current thing. Yeah. That would be a subscription game where you don't have to buy the expansions, though. But here, Destiny, it may as well have a subscription, but the way that it's structured makes people think they're buying an expansion, they're buying the DLCs, so then it feels weird when those things get vaulted. Yeah. Like, most of the content that you or I have purchased is going to be vaulted. Yeah. And that feels a bit weird, even though in reality, what they would maybe say we purchased was access to those parts of the Destiny experience at that time and the hours that we spent there. Yeah. So it's a weird perception thing.
Yeah, especially if you're kind of like a backlog player and just bought, like Forsaken on sale or something, and then thought, I'll get around to that eventually, and then, a couple of years later you didn't. It's all going to be gone. Same with all the Year 4 seasonal content. Yeah. It's unfortunate that that stuff's all just going to go away for those specific types of players. But it's something we haven't really grappled with in the industry, really.
Yeah, so it means that there is that more tuned end game experience that can be a bit more simple, a bit more easy to get into and understand. But it also does mean that those bits of content that build out the IP that you play through and experience, those aren't going to be there. Yeah. So it's definitely apples to oranges. But if FF14 just decided to vault raids and stuff to keep the file size down and improve loading times, and I couldn't go and do Omega, that would be wild. Now again, that's apples to oranges. That's not really a fair comparison, but in a way, there's a little bit of it. There's a nugget there that you can see. Yeah, like with Kate.
Yeah, it's a thing. If you're trying to build people into this world, into this big IP that has all this rich history and rich lore, which obviously Destiny has always been great for that. It's been a little bit impenetrable, and a lot of it has been the kind of almost the same way people enjoy 40k, where it's I'm just going to go and read wiki articles for 6 hours. That's kind of a lot of what Destiny's really good at, that world. But whenever you have specific parts that people can no longer actually experience, then you can't expect people to care about them quite as much. If, some players oh man, this was so good back in the day. Or, I really want you to play Destiny 2 because I had this great experience following this world as it grows and all these characters that I cared for. And then you drop in, you're like, well, is the player like, well, I'll go do, I can't do any of that. So I can't see anything about Cade 6. I can't see much about Mario Solve's history, or I'm not very good with Destiny lore, but the fellow who became the Crow, all his setup in Forsaken, something, I can't remember. But just all that stuff is gone to players, to new players. So it's not like, existing players have that memory of, oh yeah, I got to do that. But new players can't have that experience. They can't get that extra anchor into the world. And thinking about that from the lens of FF14, where obviously it's a substantially more like character and story driven game as opposed to big backgrounds of lore. But the same kind of thing applies, where it's just all of those character moments, you can't have them anymore. All of those big world changing events, you can't have them anymore. So you're kind of limiting, Bungie are kind of limiting the growth of the Destiny fan base this way, because you're just going to have people like, oh man, it was so fun back in the day. You can't do that. Well, how do I onboard you to this experience now? Because I can't rely on the history. We have to only look forward. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So basically just, it makes it messy. And, you would maybe think, like, are there other ways to do this? Could you manually just download an extra module that would let you play through, all the campaign-like content? But I think then that's development work that Bungie would rather put into the actual, like, new game experience instead of just supporting the old.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, it's a question of resources.
Yeah.
And it's like, where do you think, obviously from the responsibility to players to keep their content alive, clearly that sort of mark's been a little bit gone. And the majority of players are happier to go, don't worry about the past, focus on the future, make that better. But then you get into like, this is kind of why I wanted to talk about it a little bit, is like the longevity of it as an overall experience. You're wasting all of the work that you're doing in building this world. So when is it time to go, okay, we have to make all of that accessible to players? Or are they happy enough to go, no, we'll just keep building the future brighter than ever, and all that stuff is gone, but it was nice to be there, but people can read it on the wiki, on the lore stuff. We can offload that to the community to create, lore videos and not speculation, but like lore videos and talking about all that stuff to onboard players, as opposed to us having to do that work. I guess it's a question up to them. They've kind of decided, but I have a little bit of a fear that if they don't solve this problem, they could struggle to get people on board in the future.
Interesting. I have a feeling that the word of mouth is probably strong enough. And it's not like a lot of that campaign content was great, to be honest. There's some newer stuff, I suppose, that does have better gameplay, but I remember being thoroughly unimpressed with the campaign in Destiny 2, and, moderately whelmed at best with Forsaken. Forsaken ended up being fun because of the Dreaming City and all that endgame content, more so than the actual story stuff. So I wonder, too, if there's a bit of an admission from Bungie that, like, that stuff's maybe not really the game's focus, and for them, it's all about making that endgame loop tight. Another thing, they've vaulted the helm, which is just a part of the tower. So it's losing entire sections and all the related sort of quests, currencies, and items. Yep. So that's quite something.
Yeah.
And for an overview then of content, well, basically, here's what's up. So campaigns. Forsaken's going to be removed soon.
Well,
Shadowkeep
it'll be gone by the time you watch this video.
Yeah. Shadowkeep, still there. I mean, what campaign? I remember doing that and thinking, wait, what the... Did you seriously sell that to me? That was my experience with Shadowkeep. Beyond Light. So those are going to still be there. But obviously, time's coming.
Yep.
Raids. I remember us enjoying Leviathan. We can't ever do that again.
Yep. Nor the 4 that came after.
That's mad. So, Last Wish, I mean... Oh, it's staying. But
it's staying.
If you have Forsaken...
Yeah,
which then feels a bit weird and confusing considering so much of its content is being vaulted.
Yep.
Garden of Salvation, Deepstone Crypt, Vault of Glass, sure, those are there, but that raid content is going away just feels weird to me, because surely that could be just fun, replayable content. For PvE activities, Forges, I remember those are gone. Menagerie, that's gone. Escalation Protocol, I remember we enjoyed that quite a bit. Well, it's gone. Gambit Prime, gone. I sort of enjoyed that. I mean, actual Gambit is still there. 0 Hour Whisper Quest gone, IOB Labs gone, Reckoning gone. So the Strikes playlist is there. Good, I haven't got rid of that. So Strikes, Gambit still there. Nightmare and Empire Hunts are there, but locked behind their respective expansions. Destinations then. So Mars, Mercury, Io, Titan, and the Farm all gone, along with Leviathan and Tribute Hall. Tangled Shore also gone. So there's going to be Nessus, Cosmodrome, EDZ, Dreaming City, Moon, and Europa. Feels weird to me, but
yeah, I thought it was interesting just to highlight just how much of it's actually gone in terms of like, obviously you can argue how it's not relevant or it's not that, or maybe it wasn't super interesting in the case of like the Curse of Osiris and Warmind campaigns. I don't believe they were received particularly well. They were just base Destiny 2 DLC, I believe. And it's just a case of like, man, there's so much lost. And this feels like, it just feels sad. And I feel like there's so much of Destiny 2 that, you know, people, obviously it's improving over time, but people are playing it because all of this stuff was good enough to warrant playing in the future. And it's just this kind of thing where Destiny 2 is going to be this like snapshot of what's currently available for players, and it's going to be moving a long time. So I think, you know, everyone going, oh, well, all that old stuff was kind of shitty anyway. I think that's like fair for the experience now. But, you know, the Presage, I think it was mostly the Presage, Harbinger, Zero Hour, and Whisper quests are like the ones that really, from my reading, I focus on a lot, which is, those seemed like really, really fun bits of content that are just completely gone to the wind. And given their nature as like exotic missions, because there's a possibility they will bring back raids and stuff like that, because they did get the Vault of Glass from Destiny 1, cycle that in. They do have the possibility to do that, but the chances of them doing that for specific like exotic missions and stuff, which are just kind of, they're kind of inconsequential, but they were just little jewels of great game that were designed and made, and they're just going to be gone, which means all the improvements they make for Witch Queen, if Witch Queen is incredibly good, the campaign absolutely kicks ass, all of the like the extra content, all the in-game stuff is fantastic, the exotic missions that they add, all that stuff, if that stuff is 10 out of 10, you've got like 2 years to play it, which sounds like a lot of time, but if you're looking at this in a 5-year, 10-year timeline, it's not going to look very good.
Well, it certainly makes me wonder, even though I have trillions of games to play, is it time? Is it time to pick up Destiny 2? I mean, it feels a bit weird. Not pick up, re-pick up.
Yeah.
I haven't played since Shadowkeep, but with people who I respect, like Skill Up, talking up the quality of Year 4, makes me think maybe, okay, if Year 5 is going to learn lessons from the thing that was really, really, really good, maybe it's time to actually jump in and see how this feels as a lapsed player who last tried, or who last properly was deeply engaged with the thing that's being vaulted.
Yeah.
Because I think that could be a fair few people, given that Forsaken was, that was kind of like the, oh, hey, Destiny 2 has recovered from how it didn't really learn from Destiny 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now is the time to come in. So I think loads of people got Forsaken, played some of that year, and then probably wandered off and are now maybe interested in the game again. So that might be the next thing for me to do. That's basically the situation, though. I think, look, let us know what's your experience been. What do you think about the Vault, especially if you're a current Destiny 2 player? And what do you think the prospects are for Witch Queen? So let us know. I'll try to hop into the game soon to see what it's like for myself. And that's it for us. So you can check out whatever side of the screen the video is. Check that out. And we'll see you next time.